Welcome to another episode of the Holistic Sister Circle. Today we have Mika Myers with us, and she is a transformational life coach and founder of Revision Your Future, LLC, specializing in helping women recovery transition from mere survival to genuine thriving. She combines holistic trauma informed science backed coaching, empowering them to transcend limiting narratives, embrace their potential, and create lives of purpose, passion, and confidence. I'm so grateful to have you here today. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm so grateful to be here.
Absolutely. So before we kick things off, let's get hot and spicy for a second.
Okay.
Is there anything online that you would love anything that's not online that you would love to share with us that you haven't shared with anyone else?
I don't know about not sharing with anyone else. I'm pretty open about my story, because I feel like that's the best way to reduce any stigma around anything mental health, anything substance or alcohol related. All those skeletons in the closet, the family secrets. It's time to air those out. Like it's time to release those chains and those family patterns. So, a little bit about myself. I After going through my healing journey, I recognized that the mental health thing started pretty young, like middle school. And but I just didn't recognize it or know what it was. And that's what led me into substances and alcohol and stuff like that. And it was the mental health side of things was never really dealt with. That internal of I'm not good enough, nothing you ever do is ever good enough. It's always your fault. It's all those things we kind of hold inside, but I didn't recognize it. And it was Carl Jung. His quote of until it was something like until you bring something to awareness, until you bring your shadows to awareness, it'll guide your life, and you'll call it fate. And I totally butchered that. So, but it's true. If you're not aware of what's going on, then you're constantly running from something, but everywhere you go, there you are. And so it was after going through this healing journey on my own that I realized that that's where this stuff is coming from. So how do I heal this stuff? And I started a deep dive into the personal development journey, and here I am today. I love my life. I'm grateful for everything I went through, the ups, the downs, and I would like to help others do the same.
Absolutely. And one, I appreciate you sharing that because addictions, they can be very strong and they can come in different forms, right? It's
Oh
not
yes.
just substance abuse, but it could also be sexual. It could be maybe, you're in a situation where you're just like you're people pleasing and you're not setting boundaries. Like they just come in so many different ways. For you specifically, though, what was happening in your life at that time where you felt like um, you needed to fulfill whatever hurt or desires that were happening in your life at that time in a way that made it addicting?
It was not feeling like I belonged or that I was wanted or whatever I did, it was never good enough. And it created this pattern inside of me that now I'm trying to connect. I'm trying to find that connection. I'm trying to find that tribe, I guess. And so I found it in drinking. I found it in using drugs. I found that connection there. And there was something I wanted to Gabor Mate has the best definition of trauma that I've heard thus far. And his definition is it's not what happened to you, but what happened inside of you because of what happened to you. And that starts to create your patterns, your who I had to be to survive as a child or in certain environments. And after a certain amount of time, when you're no longer in that environment, or once you've kind of outgrown that need to for survival based on parents or guardians, but these patterns still stay with you,
Mm.
and now they no longer serve you, and now you're bringing in the bad boy type, or you're always attracting the same type of partner or the same group of friends no matter where you go because you still have that pattern running, and that's what your brain says, okay, well, this is the pattern. So this is what we need to do. So this is what's going to come into my life. And it was once I was able to interrupt that pattern that I was able to change it.
Mhm.
And when I first started going through it, it was like, it wasn't happening fast enough. And that's when I started getting into the science of things. It's like, well, this wasn't created overnight. It's not going to change overnight. And so what's happening? And so neuroscience says that you've got these neural pathways. Like no matter what you do, if you're driving your car, if you're tying your shoe, you've got a pathway for that. And so I had a pathway for attracting this type of person or reacting this type of way. And whether it was my children or my friends or whatever. Um, and the first step is to become aware of that. How do I become aware of these patterns so that I can then disrupt them and change them? And when I first started, it was a lot about Viktor Frankl and find the pot between the trigger and the reaction. There's a space, and in that space is your choice to respond. And I'm like, there is no space. Like it's the kids do something and I react. And that's because that's that neural pathway, and it happens in milliseconds. Especially when you've been doing it over and over and over again. It's like, oh, there's that trigger. This is what we do. Um, and so when I started to become aware of, oh, I'm in this pattern again. Let me stop now. So I might be 10 minutes into yelling at my kids and be like, wait, I'm in this pattern. Let me stop and step away. And that's where my space was 10 minutes in. And then the next time it might be, oh, now I'm only 8 minutes in before I became aware of it. Now I'm 5 minutes in. And the more I continued to be aware of this reaction, the less time there was between the trigger and the reaction to where I could actually find that space to where it didn't immediately set me off. And then I could start creating new patterns. I could start talking to them better. I could start doing things in advance that would stop whatever was happening in the first place. And and being able to go through that was amazing.
Yeah, no, this is actually really good because I mean, so many women could just honestly relate to this, right? Regardless if you have children or not, but there's even moments within myself where even earlier today I'm like, okay, let me catch myself for a second because I don't like how I'm about to react in this moment. So let me just pause for a moment. But it takes a lot of work and mental toughness to stay in that awareness state. What would you say to someone that may be going through that right now, where they're having a challenging time, or maybe they had something just recently happen in their life and they're trying to figure it out in real time, and it's a little bit more of a burden for them to immediately catch on to that awareness? What would you say to someone like that, and what would be some practical steps you would give them?
Consistency. Just, like I said, I didn't recognize it in real time. It was it 10 minutes or however long into the reaction that I finally noticed. And at the moment you notice, that's your pause. That's your chance to stop and say, this is not what I want. Let me step away. Let me take a breath, calm down, get out of my emotional limbic system brain and in back into my prefrontal cortex where I can make some decisions and be a little more logical. And let me get
Right.
into my heart. And what does my heart say I should do in this moment? Because all too often the head and the heart don't align. We don't have that coherence all the time. And when you're stuck in survival mode all the time, you're constantly out of that coherence. And it's hard to drop into that heart space when you're stuck in your emotional brain and you're in fight or flight or freeze or fawn or however you react to situations. Then you literally cannot get into that prefrontal cortex, into that thinking rational mind, and then be able to safely drop into your heart to know this is how I should handle this situation. And
Right.
so the practical step is first just become aware of it. And when you become aware of it, practice the pause at that time.
Hmm. Hmm. No, this is really good. So if someone were essentially like, if you had a client working with you, right? How would you what are some things that you do to guide them in this way to make sure that when they leave you, they're still practicing these things over time?
Um, we really just go through the steps while we're in connection together. So that way you know what it's like, you know how it feels, and then you know what it's like to come back to that because you already know how it feels. We've practiced it. We've gone through it. And this is how it feels in the body. This is how it feels in my mind. It's not the monkey mind racing around. It's not the shakes or the jitters. Or for me, it was my mind would totally blank. Like I couldn't think of anything. When I was stuck in that mode, I couldn't think of anything. And and it was just to start to recognize what are my triggers and what are my reactions to those triggers. And when I start to notice, then it comes a little closer to where now I can feel those things coming up and I know that I'm going to react a certain way. I'm starting to feel frustrated. I'm starting to feel a little shaky or antsy. Let me stop now and take a couple breaths, maybe take a walk around. Um whatever it take, go outside, whatever it takes to kind of break that pattern. And then once you've broken the pattern, then you can come back into your rational mind and say, okay, I'm going to look around. And even if it's the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, I'm going to look around. I'm safe in this moment. I don't have somebody coming after me. I don't have anything like I'm safe. I'm safe right now. So, what's that feeling of safety? What's that feel like in my body? And then that way I can notice when I'm out of it and I know how to bring myself back. So we would practice things like that because once you've experienced it and you're aware of it, you know how to come back to it.
Yeah,
And
that makes total sense.
yes. And so and I had a quote here that I really liked. It was that addiction is not a moral failure. It's a survival strategy gone rogue. And that you can't thrive in a body that doesn't feel safe. Healing begins when the nervous system says, I'm home.
Hmm.
And so we
Yeah.
learn how to come back home to ourselves. Like, I can be safe here. I can be safe in my skin. I can be safe in my environment. Um, that I'm allowed to be safe in this world.
Yeah. No, this is so beautiful. And I just think of, again, everybody has their seasons and they have different things that they're going through at different times. And I know that even when I had been at my lowest, I didn't have a community. I didn't have anyone that I could connect with or I could tap into or that I even felt like really understood what I was going through. And I certainly didn't know how to find them either. So that would be my next question is, with someone going through something like this, how would they even know to work with someone like you?
Um, it was the same. I have to say for me, it was the same. I
Mhm.
had 4 kids at home. I didn't feel like I could go to meetings or try that route. I didn't know anybody in the area that could even like watch my kids so that I could even go to therapy or anything along those lines. So I very much did it myself. And it was all through learning. I just, went through YouTube and started searching people. I found Bob Proctor and then Earl Nightingale, Tony Robbins, and Jim Rohn, and kind of was trying to put the pieces together. But it was like trying to put together a 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle without the picture on the box. And so it was like, I'm doing this and I'm doing this and I'm doing this, but why isn't it working? And um and so that's why I wanted to create this community is because I didn't have that and I didn't know how to find that. And I think especially now since post COVID, it's everyone is more online, which is great. It's a great way to connect here. But we got to know where to look to connect.
Right.
And so if you can't go to a local recovery group, I would look up local recovery groups and if and join a meeting or two. I have since been to some meetings now that I moved back to where my family is, where I grew up, so that I could have that support. But find some friends, find somebody you can talk to. Um, somebody that can be there, that can support you, that knows what it's like to have, they might not know exactly your experience, but they've had their own experience and they know what it's like to go through those challenges.
Right. And you know what I was thinking too, Micah, like, let me know if you are open to sharing this as well, but while you were going through this, I'm pretty sure your children were also experiencing some type of hurt and pain from it as well.
Oh, yes.
What, like, my first question is, what did that look like for them? And then how were you able to not just heal yourself, but also heal those wounds within them as well?
So, how that would show up for them is a lot of fighting, because that's how they learn to get the attention. Um, or it would be a lot of online gaming and they'd be separated and kind of away from me. And because they wanted to avoid me because I was yelling at them all the time, or I was drinking all the time, or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
And they stopped asking me for things because it was like, I didn't want to go anywhere after a certain time because I knew I'd be drinking. Um, and so it showed up a lot in them, in some, there was a lot of sadness, there was a lot of lashing out. There was, like, my one son would hold his breath, he would get upset with me and he would be all upset, and he would hold his breath, or like bury his face in his pillow, or one would just stay completely quiet, and one would just kind of walk on eggshells.
Mm,
And I didn't realize how deeply it had affected them until, like I said, we had moved back to where my family is, and they went back. We were homeschooling for a while, and the older two requested to go back to school.
mhm.
And so once we moved back in with my family and I had them enrolled in school, my oldest was like, everyone's so nice. I'm just waiting for something to happen. And that's when it really hit me, like, his nervous system is way out of whack. He's hypervigilant, he's on edge. It's like, feeling safe did not feel safe because he didn't know what it was like to feel safe. And so we started doing the work on that, because I truly believe that when you heal yourself, you heal your family. And it's one woman, one family, one community at a time. And it starts with you.
Absolutely. And this is so powerful because I know so many women too who remain stuck
Hmm.
to the point where, I mean, they're not healing themselves. They're not healing anyone around them, and they are in this mind frame that there's nothing wrong. They're fine. There's nothing wrong. They didn't do anything wrong. Everything is everybody else's fault. And I'm so grateful that not only are you sharing your story and being so vulnerable with it, but you are also admitting in holding yourself accountable and holding yourself to a higher standard, which honestly a lot of women just don't do. What was that? I mean, of course, that journey for you, but if you could kind of think about a time too where you did say enough was enough. When did that actually occur in those
I,
moments?
I was deeply depressed and laying in bed, and I just, I was kind of coming to the tail end of my depression. Like, this has to change, because I was starting to become more aware of how it was affecting my kids. I was becoming more aware of how it affected me, and I was like, this cannot be all there is to life. Like, this can't be it. This can't be why I'm here, is to live like this, to be so down and depressed, and like, how are other people thriving?
Yeah.
And not the fake Facebook or Instagram thriving when it's all falling apart behind the scenes. It's the, like, like, some people are truly happy, and I was there once. I used to be truly happy, and I was kind of looking back at that, like, where did all that go? Where did I lose that? And and so finally one day I was like, enough is enough. Like, I deserve better than this. My boys deserve better than this. And it's time to change.
How old were you when
But
that happened?
I was, let's see, this was in 22, so I was like 41.
Wow. And how old were your kids by then?
Um, let's see. That one. They were, let's see, my oldest in 22 would have been 11,
Hmm.
and then 15 months below that, and then, about 2.5 years below that. And then, so they were all pretty young still.
Yeah. And the reason I ask this question is because I do want ladies to understand too that your children will love you through it. And it's okay if you don't have all the answers and all the pieces together. They are going to love you through it because they just love you and they love you unconditionally.
Yes.
But they are when they're children, it's almost it can be difficult for them to grasp or understand what's happening. But the great thing about what it is that you did too, Micah, was you set the standard and you set the example. So now they know, okay, this is what it can look like if you let things go too far.
Hmm.
But this is also what it can look like on the other side if you're now thriving. And they've watched you do it in real time, which also gives them hope for anything that they may have within their journey of life and they're walking this life, what it actually looks like to hold yourself accountable, hold yourself to a higher standard, and know that this is just a season that you will get through if you choose to, if you decide.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
100%. And that's one of my biggest drivers, even to this day, is I want to be that example for them because they saw what it was like and experienced that, and they don't really have a choice. Like, I am their
Right.
survival. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
they literally need me to survive. And and that's where a lot of our stuff comes in, if, through childhood, if we have those childhood traumas, that's where it comes in. And again, with Gabor Mate, it's not just what happened to you that shouldn't have, it's what didn't happen that should have.
Right.
And so I wasn't able to show up for them like I should have. I wasn't able to love on them, to sit down, and when they were getting into it, to sit down and be like, "Hey guys, what's going on?" And kind of walk them through that and be that example for them. Like, I wasn't there for them like that. And so now it's my goal and my mission to be there for me like that and to be there for them like that because they deserve that.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. I love it. I love it. I love it. Well, Micah, this has been amazing. Such an amazing journey just talking to you, hearing your story. And if anyone has questions for Micah, please let us know. In the meantime, though, if anyone was looking to connect with you further, what does that process look like?
Right now, I am on Facebook and LinkedIn. I do
Okay.
not have a website yet, but I will be working on that in the future. Um, but I have Revision Your Future as my business page. I also have Empowering Women and as a group page, and then Micah Myers on LinkedIn.
Awesome. Amazing. And then, of course, for those who are listening as well, we do have two communities. So we, of course, have the Holistic Sister Circle community, which Micah is now a part of. And then we also have our podcast Playground for Female Entrepreneurs community. So regardless of where you're tuning in from, she is here ready to receive any messages that you have for her, any comments that you have for her. And yeah, I'm super grateful that we had this conversation and we've been able to connect. And yeah, I'm glad that you're part of the community.
Thank you. Me too.
You're welcome. Until next time.
Bye bye.